Panagdait sa Dios ug sa tanang kabuhatan. For today's presentation, we are assigned to discuss about human rights education in relation to peace education. I am Rose Islawan together with my partner, Miss Lurgen Tomorrow. Did you ever heard about the word human rights? In this presentation, all of us will understand the concept of strengthening human rights and human rights education. It is important that we should know our basic rights. At least we can help especially those who did not send to school. Since we are blessed to have a formal education, let us grab the opportunity to know our rights. Strengthening human rights plays a crucial role in the process of peace education, considering the fact that peace can be attained if the basic rights of citizens from all walks of life will be respected. So what are the basic rights of citizens? So for example, for the basic rights of citizens are right to education, right to live, right to own property. Then it is essential as all forms of violence are comprehensible within the human rights framework, which in turn suggests right-based option and action to counter different forms of violence. The good thing magod if ever kabalota sa atong rights, if there are cases in which nga ma-involve ang atong self, even though dili kita ang nag-commit, but we are suspected. For example, naay crime nga nahitabo sa usa ka lugar. And then, naa ka sa actual sa paghitabo. And then, gibali ang storya o ikaw ang nahimong suspect. So, suspect pa siya, dili pa siya kriminal. But, you know your rights. You know the definition of human rights. That is why, the moment nga gi-accuse ka sa police, the moment nga gidakop ka, so may surrender ka. It is because you know your rights. You have the right to surrender yourself and with due process of law. Okay, here is that what is human rights all about? Human rights was defined into two, which are basics. First, we have basic standards. It is basic standards in which people can live with dignity. Human rights are within us since the day that we are officially a citizen of our country. In short, init na sa tuwa. As long as we are registered to our respective municipalities or provinces, a standard in which we are protected any kind or against any violence or discrimination baka. A standard na mas makarealize ta sa atuang worth because protected ta. Our impact sa tong society and no need for us to ask questions for ourselves, and it can help us to become who we are and what we can do. Yes, we have the rights, but we need to follow what is written by laws. It is a foundation if and only if we feel freedom, justice, and peace in ourselves, as well as sa atuang surroundings. Yes, we do have freedom, but then, sa kung gingon ganiha, dili pasabot nga pwede na ta mobuhat sa tuwang gusto. But still, we need to follow what is written in the Constitution and bylaws. Through human rights, we have justice not just for ourselves, but for the welfare of the whole community. That is why with the help of peace education, at least ma-aware ta sa atuang right. We are lucky enough since natay formal education. That is why nga ang human rights education is that appeal siya sa content sa peace education because related man sila in terms nga ang each individual is that makasabot sila kung paunsan nila makuha ang ilahang rights aron ma-attain nila ang peace. Okay. There are characteristics of human rights. Human rights are inherent to each individual, which means nga ang atoang rights is that dili nato siya pwede mapalit or mabaligya. Maybe there are some cases nga makaingon ta nga ang iyang rights is that gibaligya siya, but it depends upon the reason of a person o nganong nabuhat na niya. Human rights are universal. It is because regardless of our race, madato ka man, mapobre, malaki, mabayi or mapart man ka sa LGBTQ+, or any kind or type or sect of religion, political views and aspirations, all of us are fair in terms of human rights. No one has the right to deprive human rights to another person. Each individual still have human rights even when the laws of their country do not recognize them or when they engage to any kind of violation. For example, kanang mga priso. Though bisan pag piniriso sila, but in terms or during election, they have the right to vote their political uh, politicians or kanang ilahang gusto nga i-vote. Maskin pa og piniriso sila, but still the human rights are there. Next, we have the basic rights in human rights. First, we have the civil and political rights. Maybe most of us are familiar with this. Civil and political rights is the first generation rights or the liberty-oriented. These first generation rights includes the right to life, liberty, and security of an individual, freedom from torture and slavery. That is why nga, di ba, naay mga organization nga if gusto ka mo appeal sa ilaha is that moagi pa ka og kanang ng physical bitaw nga mga injury. That is why nga ang laws or we have the human rights ka mo protect sa atua, but I don't know the reason po nila nga mo appeal man gid sila anang organization. Maybe na mga agreement sila or na feel nila nga na sila useful na siya nga organization. Political participations, freedom of opinions and expressions through conscience and religion. It includes also the freedom of association and assembly. Yes, we have the freedom of association and assembly, but it should not be against the law. Pwede ta makabuhat of any kind of organization as long as wala na to gideprive ang rights sa uban, as long as ang rights sa uban is that free sila, and then dili gid siya against sa law or makatamak ta og rights sa lain. For the second basic rights in human rights, we have economic and social rights, or the second generation rights, the security-oriented. These second generation rights include the right to work, education, a reasonable standard of living, food, shelter, and health care. Third, we have environmental, cultural, and developmental rights, or the third generation rights, in which it includes the right to live in an environment that is clean and protected from destruction, and right to cultural, political, and economic development. Okay, the human rights education. It is a training, dissemination, and information efforts aimed at the building of a universal culture of human rights through the imparting of knowledge and skills and the molding of attitude. It is a training for what? What's the purpose niya? Okay, human rights education is that can help us of what is the real scenario, of what is the real world settings. And sa una to pag-handle sa atuang rights, not just in theory, not just in book, but in reality on how we can apply it. Because that is the most important, not just learning by theory, but also we will know on how to apply it in a real world and help us to know more. As most of us are future educator, it is important that we know how to impart our knowledge or unsa man ang atuang na-learn about human rights. Please do not be selfish. Once a person is aware and know about the human rights education, 99% he or she will become the best version of himself or herself. The point of human rights education is that if ever ang students ma-under ani nga subject, it can help the learners on how to have a peaceful living and malikayan niya ang any kind of violence or at least man lang mas mules ang violence inside the society or the community as a whole. Okay. Flowers 2000 she defines human rights education as it promotes understanding and embraces the principles of human equality and dignity and a commitment to respect and protect the rights of all people. As Flower 2000 defines human rights education, every word is that na siya impact sa tuwa as a human. From her words nga embraces the principle of human equality and dignity. Surely makaingon gitag unta tanan ingon ani puhon ang product as sa student nga miander of peace education nga subject. A citizen that knows how to value its dignity nga di niya ibaligya or kalasan in exchange with anything like money, power, or material thing that is priceless. Through human rights education, it gives awareness to every learners on how to protect and preserve their rights. According to UNESCO 2007, that human rights education has three aspects, namely access, quality, and a respectful learning environment. First and foremost, everyone has the right to access education. Furthermore, everyone has the right to quality education, which includes a broad, inclusive, relevant curriculum and a healthy, child-friendly learning environment. UNESCO 2007. From the definition above, we can say nga taas kayo sila expectations to have a productive citizens in the future. It is worth it that we are aware of our rights and we know our respective boundaries. If everyone can access this, the quality and its respective learning environment will surely follow. According to Rodon 1999, he explained that the human rights education wanted to first develop the general acceptance of human dignity as a fundamental principle to be observed throughout the society. Second, assure all assure that all people are aware that they are endowed with rights that are universal, integral, and irrevocable. And third, demonstrate the connection between human rights to a broad range of social problems. From hrlibrary.umn.edu, they define human rights education in which it is all about helping people to understand or to develop to the point where they understand human rights and where they feel that they are important and should be respected and defended. Human rights education teach people about the international law or about human rights violations such as torture, discrimination, and more. It teaches the people on how to respect and protect our rights. Okay, there are four activities in which it gives the children to feel a world free of human rights violation. First, we have the skills. Through the skills, it helps the learners in terms of listening to others, making moral analysis, cooperate, communicate, handle problem solving, and questioning status quo. It helps us as a learner and a future educator to to, to analyze the problem on how to handle it and understand that human rights are ways to improve our lives and take action to protect these. Third activities, we have knowledge, knowing that human rights document is existed. We should know and bear in our mind the consequences in violating our human rights. It helps us to protect our own rights and the rights of others. Third, we have attitudes. Human rights should be respected. We are responsible for our actions and consequences. Cooperation is better than conflict. Fourth, we have methodology. We do believe that children become participative depending on how the teachers caught the attention and interest of the learners. In this part, teachers are encouraging to become an active explorer in the different aspects of their lives where the students can relate to them. As a summary of our presentation, human rights education that gives emphasis on how we should protect and use our human rights. At least man lang sa peace education is that the students is ma-aware sila kay ingon ani di ay ang situation, ingon ani ang scenario, and makarealize sila kung unsa di ay ang content, unsa ang dapat buhaton as a human person. Since there are some cases man good nga without knowledge about our rights, that is why nga other person, other individual is that mo grab sila sa opportunity in which nga mag-discriminate ba kaha or tira mo sulod ang violence or threat sa isa ka tawo or di ba ka threat ang isa ka family. I think that's all for our presentation. Thank you and God bless.